Hey guys, welcome to today's video, which is just a sort of reflection video really of the last year since we moved into this new house. So I really love making these types of reflection videos, and I also really love watching other people's, like whether it's New Year's resolutions or just looking back on the last year, or like this about a house or about their wedding or like big life moments. I always think there's a lot to be like learnt and gained from watching those types of videos. Yeah, and also I like making them because I like watching them back and realising like how much has changed, and because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think you can feel quite stuck in life and quite and your perception of like where you are and how you're doing and how things are going is different than reality in a negative way too. And sometimes sitting here and talking about it, and then when you like watch this a year from now, 2 years from now, you realise really how far you've come and how much good there is, and I love it for that reason too. So I thought I'd sort of talk about why we wanted to move. When we bought our last house, which was our first house, we kind of knew that we only really wanted to be there 5 years, like maximum. It wasn't the biggest house, and we just knew that like we want to start a family and we have pets, and just sort of what we wanted for a longer term home. And don't get me wrong, that was our home and we adored it and we often miss it, which we didn't see coming. But it wasn't like a forever home or even a long-term home. We just sort of knew that, just the vibe of it and the space that was there and the layout on the street and even the location. It was really more us just wanting our own space that was ours, that we owned, and also just to get on the property ladder. So yeah, we were there for 5 years, and actually by the time that sort of came around, if it wasn't for an incident that happened, which I'll talk about, I think we maybe would have stayed longer. Like once we had started really putting our stamp on the place, decorating it, making it really colourful and fun and homey, because we didn't do that for a few years. Like when we moved in, we whitewashed the place and we changed the carpets and stuff, and we did totally redo the bathroom because that was necessary. But other than that, we just sort of then left it for a while. We just had a lot going on in our lives, and like it just wasn't a priority, and money is always a factor. We're not millionaires, so yeah. And then once we did put our stamp on it and it really felt like home and it was filled with all the stuff we love, we were quite sad to be leaving it until so in the time we were in that house, we had 4 different sets of neighbours in the house next door in 5 years. And the layout of those houses was that the front doors were like right next to each other, which actually is funny because I never knew until looking to buy houses that so many houses were laid out like that. And we just didn't ever think it would be a problem. We've lived in like so many different places together, and we've never had a problem with any neighbours ever. And we met the neighbours when we viewed the house and thought it was going to be fine. And like I said, they moved out, we got new neighbours, they were worse. They moved out, we got the new neighbours, they were worst. Yeah, no, it was actually, I can laugh about it now sometimes, but it genuinely was horrific. We were harassed by them. Yeah, it just was awful, and the police were involved. We had a whole police harassment case. It honestly was dreadful, and completely wrecked mine and Ben's health, physical and mental. And it went on for nearly 2 years, a year and a half, and then it all happened in lockdown as well, and we were both shielding, so we were stuck in, and yeah, it was a time. So that sped up the process, because where we had just got to this place where we were like, maybe we'll stay longer than that, we then were like, let's go, let's get out now. Like, I don't think we could have got out faster if we tried. At that point we were really desperate, and we'd already got the ball in motion when they then got removed, so like it was already done. And also like even once they left and we got a lovely new neighbour who is like the dream neighbour, the damage was done. Like, we didn't feel comfortable there anymore. We didn't feel safe, we didn't feel comfortable, and it was just time for a change. Where we'd already sort of known before that we didn't want to be there longer than 5 years. Now we were more than ever sure for certain that that wasn't the place for us to stay any longer. Actually, because of what we went through with them, like, most of our tick box list for the next house was to do with like clear boundaries around our property, more space from any neighbours, which we have got here. It's amazing, which was like a massive reason we wanted this house. Yeah, we would never ever move somewhere where the front doors are that close to each other ever again, never, because of that. Like, it's genuinely scarred us for life. Yeah, and all of that sort of stuff mattered a lot, about clear boundaries and space from people, and that's really sad, but and we're very like lucky and privileged to be able to go looking for a house that has like boundaries and more space, and yeah, and has more privacy. I know that, but it was a must after what we went through, which is really sad, because also I am a people person most of the time, so like, yeah, feeling like, okay, I want to be near no one was very alien to me. But we also knew that we wanted a house, like the next house, we wanted it to have way more character. Our first house was great, like for the price that we were looking at. The rooms were such a good size and shape. It was just a really easy, genuinely the perfect first house, I would say. But it just was very plain, didn't have much character, it wasn't very old, and I love the cottage life. Like, I am not a city girl at all. Like, I have always wanted to live in the countryside. I would move to Cornwall tomorrow if we could. And live in the middle of nowhere on our own. I love the countryside, I love cottages, I love older houses. And when we saw this, we honestly couldn't believe our eyes. This house is like 100 years old, and in the living room it has all the beams on the roof and down the walls, and it's just got like a lot of old fashioned features that I love, and it is very much in the countryside, which I love. Just a completely different vibe we really wanted from our first house. And also because of my health issues and Ben's, we wanted a change of pace. Where we lived, we were sort of high up from the road, from like the path and the road, like there was steps up to our house, and our sort of drive, yeah, our house was like up high, but at the end of our drive was a public footpath that was actually really quite busy, and the road was really quite busy. And actually at the time, like I said, when we bought it, didn't bother us at all. But by the time it came to moving, we were like, we would like somewhere more peaceful, somewhere quieter, somewhere with less footfall, less traffic, and yeah, that's exactly what this is. So, moving day. I've talked about this in other videos. Genuinely, like, me and Ben both say we genuinely think we have PTSD from it. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I might laugh throughout describing this to you, but that's just out of like sheer coping, trying to cope. Like, I can't explain how dreadful it was. And it was all the, like, so I had started packing up our house months before, like before we'd even put a bid on this house. Like, I knew we were going to find something, we were going to move. Like, why waste time? And I know with my health and how busy Ben is, like, it just made sense to just get started, do things that you don't need, and like first, and do that. And I planned it all, and that was all great. And we hired movers. Ben was like, we're not doing that again. Like, this time we've got a whole house worth of stuff. Like, we'll get professional movers. Yeah, they seemed lovely, and they were so highly rated and reviewed and recommended. It was wild. And then basically what we found out at the end of the day was that they had overbooked themselves, and so they had just like outsourced our job to random people, which was clear. Because yeah, they turned up, the van was like a quarter of the size that we needed, and there was only 2 men where there was meant to be many more. it was absolutely dreadful. Like as soon as they turned up, we knew, oh my god, like our stuff isn't going to fit in that. Like what are we going to do? We're probably not going to have time to do multiple trips. We were saved by our friends and family. Like they really pulled through for us like they always do, and they turned up. And like one of our groomsmen has a van, and he came and helped all day and all night. And we were meant to be in this house at 2 p.m. and at 10 p.m. we were still moving in. It was genuinely, it makes me feel physically ill. Like it was awful. And on top of all of that, I, at the time, was in a really bad flare. If you don't know, I have systemic lupus and fibromyalgia and occipital neuralgia. I'm a very unwell, disabled person, and I had been given morphine. It's on my repeat prescription. I don't like using it. I don't like the way it feels. I just don't like using it. So I literally have used it amount of times I could count on my hand in the 2 years that it's been on my repeat prescription, where I could get it every month. I just genuinely don't like the feeling of it. But my family and friends begged me to use it. They constantly say to me, why suffer? Like it's there for a reason, and they are right in that respect. And sometimes I absolutely cannot cope, so I have to take it. I had taken it that morning, and I don't know if I took too much too close together because of how manic the day was, or if it was that I hadn't eaten enough when I took it, but I was violently ill. Like violently ill. I could not stop like projectile vomiting everywhere. I was slurring my words. Like I genuinely couldn't function, and I don't think it was just the morphine. I think I was that unwell as a combination of my lupus and the morphine. Like I was just completely out of it. We were up at like 4 a.m. getting stuff ready, and then yeah, at about 7 a.m. I just crashed out, and it was horrendous. And me and Ben both had a good cry on that day. It totally messed up our plans for what we wanted to do in those first couple of weeks when we moved in, because I was bedridden for a solid week. Like genuinely couldn't eat, couldn't walk without help, couldn't get dressed. It was one of the worst times of my health I've ever had, actually. And we moved in 10 days before Christmas, which I know is wild, but it's the way it happened. And yeah, we had just planned to like at least do some like cleaning and basic decorating before Christmas. That all went out the window. That all went out the window. Nope. And actually those jobs that I had listed still haven't been done a year later. We'll get into that. And that brings me on to my next point, which is I was actually really worried about moving in that close to Christmas. Like I am a Christmas fiend. I'm a Christmas elf. I love Christmas. And so I was really worried that like it would ruin Christmas, that I would just be too stressed and too unwell and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. But actually it made that time like more magical. And like now that we're creeping to that time of year again, and I'm driving around this area at night and stuff, it's giving me all the flashbacks of like not moving day and not the week that I was ill, but after that, around Christmas when I was better and we were exploring the area, because we've moved to a totally new place that we've never lived and no one we know has ever lived. And yeah, it was lovely. Like it was such an exciting time. Everything felt new and fresh and fun. And like whenever me and Ben were out in the car, even just trying to find a supermarket was just like, it was like an adventure, and we loved it. And so now it's getting to that time again, and I'm driving to those places, and now it's so like I'm used to it. It feels all warm and fuzzy. It's lovely. Actually, it was a lovely distraction from the moving stress. Like Christmas was a lovely distraction, and also sort of forced us to just chill out on the plans. Like the plans we had made were wild, and once we had moved in and then Christmas hit, we were just like, let's just enjoy Christmas. Like let's not put pressure on ourselves, let's not worry about doing this, doing that. And that's what we did, and it was lovely. It was a good thing. So now we're in a much older house. Let's talk downsides to buying an old house. Obviously it needs a lot of work. Like that's just, it is what it is. But this house has good bones, as people say. Like the potential is out of this world. But it does need a lot of work. And also the people that were in here before us lived here for 45 years. So they were older people. It's not in the best condition. It's going to need a lot of work. That didn't intimidate or bother us. I see that as a way that we can put our stamp on it and make it ours, which I thought everyone sort of would feel like that. But every estate agent said to me that like that's rare. Like most people go into a house and if it's not like to their taste, they can't imagine living there. But I don't see it like that at all. Like, I go into a place and I'm like, Christmas tree there, mirror there, sofa there. Like, I can already like see our stuff there and how we would live in that space. With this house, there's like no insulation, so that's our current like big issue that we're dealing with. And like when we moved in, loads of the radiators didn't work, so just, you know, stuff like that with an old house. And also the loft is wild. Like, the way our roof is, because it's a cottage, it's like a really old house, the way that, and then there's the loft. When you go up there, immediately around you there's like a good little space, but then if you want to go anywhere else, and it is actually a big loft, but if you want to go anywhere else, you're basically doing like Spy Kids. There's over lasers and all, because there's just beams everywhere, so it's very awkward and not what we're used to. Our old loft was just a big open space, and once Ben had like reboarded the floor, it was the perfect loft, and we do need the storage space. Yeah, here the loft is old and wild. But let's talk about why I love it here, more importantly. Peace and quiet. I've never in my life lived somewhere so peaceful and so quiet, and particularly at this point in my life, after like all of the stuff with COVID and then my health and planning and putting on 2 weddings and then moving, all in like the space of 2 years or 3 years. I needed it more than ever. Like, I just really needed slow living, restful, peaceful, quiet, comforting life. Like, that's just the phase I'm at and what I need right now for the sake of my health. Another thing is space. Like, we have so much more space. That's not creepy at all. See these fairy lights? They're like going all the way around here. They go down here, and that just randomly started waving about. So yeah, let's ignore that and move on. I love that we really felt like we had a fresh start, which is another thing I loved about moving at Christmas, because as soon as it was New Year and the Christmas stuff all got packed away, it felt like the biggest fresh start I've probably ever felt like I've had in my life, and it came at a time when we both really needed that, and that's been lovely. Like, it just all felt new, clean slate, and that's been great. The thing I love about it here is the neighbours. It's actually such a lovely like community feeling. I don't think I've ever lived in a place that's felt like it has such a like actual old-fashioned like community. When we moved in, I have never had such a warm welcome, and so many lovely people greeting us, welcoming us, giving us Christmas cards, inviting us to their Christmas parties when we'd literally just moved in. Like, it was honestly a joy. A thing for me, like a major reason why we're here, and something that I love every day, is the beautiful views and countryside that we live in. Like, every view from every window I adore in this house, and every view when I'm driving to anywhere I've got to go around here I love. Like, I take such joy and pleasure in it, and that matters to me. Like, I just think, if you know, and again, I know that we're so lucky and privileged to be able to have that, but it makes such a difference to my overall well-being that I like love it here and take such joy in simple stuff such as just driving to the shops. Privacy. This house is so much more private than our old house. The way that the houses are, because it's all higgledy-piggledy and old-fashioned here, we're all like faced away from each other, so it just feels so private, and I love that, and I'm gonna especially love that when we have kids. I love that this has more character than our old house. It has so much more character. Just the layout, the beams we love, the roof I love, the garden, it just, every inch of it has more character than our old house, and because it's like quite worn down, we can really put our stamp on it and really make it ours, which I actually do really love. I love that it has a dining room. Something we've always wanted. And you know what? The cats love it here. And they loved it here so quickly, it felt like home immediately, which actually our old house did too, I can't lie, and even my family said it about both houses, that it just feels like home right away. But this really did, and it was so bizarre with the cats, because obviously like moving is so stressful on cats, especially our moving day. And we had done the whole thing you're meant to do with cats, which is like keep them in one room for a week and then you introduce them to just sort of like room by room at a time. You're not meant to just let them out in the house. That they can seem fine with that, but it can do real havoc on their stress levels and their health, and Cleo has health issues. So yeah, I knew straight away, okay, well, we need to like do that step by step. And we honestly were expecting, okay, after a week we'll let them out and they'll be really sheepish and blah blah blah. After a day they were dying to come out. Like, I've never known anything like it with them. We did eventually, we let them out sooner than we planned to, and we just let them then have like the run of the stairs and downstairs hall and be able to come into the living room with us of an evening, and then we put them up to bed at night, and actually they seemed really happy with that and we were happy with that. And then yeah, they were dying to explore it, and they both seemed so happy here from the moment we moved. It's been the loveliest thing. What I've learnt from living here, I love the quiet for the sake of my health. Like, I love that there's not trucks going by, school kids constantly out the front of my house. Like, I sound like the Grinch, but the peace and quiet has done wonders for my health, mental and physical. Another massive lesson is that things take time. We cannot renovate this house in a month or even a year, maybe even 5 years. Like, it's a big job and it's gonna take time, and I've never learnt that more than living here, and I've never actually been more okay with it than when we've lived here. I was forced to accept it because of how unwell I was. I literally physically could not do anything, so it was tough. Like, I think that actually helped me come to terms with the fact that, yeah, this is going to take time. You're not going to be able to do it all in a week. It sounds so obvious and stupid, but a bigger garden is so much more work. And don't get me wrong, I adore it. I love our gardens here. I honestly, they're the dream. It's my dream garden. But yeah, I just didn't, I don't think I thought through, okay, if there's that much more garden, like for instance, there's that much more grass to cut. Sounds so stupid, but it's true. And if there's that much more garden, there's that much more plants to deadhead, and there's that much more leaves to rake up, and you know what I mean? It's just, I was just caught up in the excitement of it and sort of forgot how much extra work it would be. As I was just saying about my cats, another thing I've learned is that they really love the peace and quiet. Like, I think we maybe underestimated how much the horrific neighbours were affecting the cats and their health and stuff. Fig kept having loads of mystery illnesses when we lived there, and he has literally never been more vibrant and happy and vocal and social with people than when we've lived here. It's amazing. The last thing I've learned is that it doesn't matter where you live, finding workmen is still a nightmare. It's a nightmare to find ones that can be trusted. It's a nightmare to find ones that don't make you wait a year to have them come in, or that they'll say they do it, or they'll say they'll come in and then they mess you around. And my brother's going through this exact same thing with his house. Like, it's just, I don't understand how it's so hard to find people like to come and do work in your house. It's just, I don't understand. Lastly, I'll finish with my little tips for if you are moving, or you've just moved, or yeah, you're decorating or renovating. My first one is, and I think this is the best thing ever, is put your paint samples and your wallpaper samples up in the rooms you want them in for like a couple of months at least before you want to decorate. Honestly, it's crazy. I had picked stuff out before we moved here, and I'd loved it for the whole time, for like a year. I'd been certain that's the wallpaper and that's the colour I want in this house when we move. Put it up in here, and after a couple of months I hate it. And I'm so glad I haven't put it on the walls. I'm like bored of it, or I'm like, yeah, I'm annoyed, I'm like bored of seeing it every day, or like, actually I don't really love that colour in this light in this house, or certain things don't suit your house as well, which my mum told me before we moved. She was like, well, hold off, because you might get there and the stuff you want might not suit the house. And I was like, didn't really understand that fully until we were here, and now I'm like, yeah, there's loads of stuff I like that doesn't suit this house. So yeah, that's a massive tip. Put it up on the wall, live with it for a while, because you might change your mind. Expect nothing when it comes to renovations. Like, be okay with it taking it slow, knowing that stuff will go wrong and that that's okay, that's just life. And that, like, I think if you go into it thinking we're going to do all this in a month and this is the order we'll do it in, you always get snags, you always get hiccups. It's just the way it goes with renovating a house or decorating a house. I think if you just know that going into it, it maybe hurts a little less when it happens. If you have a bigger garden now and you are overwhelmed by the workload, pick plants and trees and whatever that are hardy and easy to look after, like don't take a lot of work. Especially if now you've got like more of them, definitely picking stuff that doesn't need like constant upkeep will take so much off your workload. It's unreal. Go and view your moving van before your moving day. Like whoever you've booked, say, is it alright if I just come and look at the van that you're going to give me and get that in writing, that that's the one you're getting, and get it in writing the amount of men you're getting, because we thought that that was made clear in our contract with the guys we hired, and actually they were very deliberately vague. And you talk to people, and especially if they're that highly recommended, you just trust it. That's wrong. I know I'm the Grinch in this video. That's wrong. Don't trust it. Go and see it, because you do not want to end up with a moving day like ours. Start packing months before like I did. I just think that's so much easier. Obviously, if you're going to hire packing people, that's fine, but I didn't trust people with our stuff. I wanted to do it myself and know where everything is and like label it the way so that I know what things are. And yeah, I started with stuff you don't need, so like artwork, just decorative stuff, anything that's decorative, start with that, because you don't need it there, and it is sad, you do miss it once it's gone, but it just makes the process so much easier than trying to do it like all the week before you move. That, I can't imagine the stress that comes with that. Try to go with the flow. So much unexpected stuff happened when we moved in here, and I honestly thought, if you'd asked me before that had happened, I would have told you I'm gonna have a meltdown, I can't handle that. But again, I think forced because of my health stuff, I just learnt to go with the flow, and I've sort of done that ever since. And actually, it's been a year and we haven't done hardly as much as we wanted to in terms of decorating the house or renovating the house. Just because life's got in the way. We had a wedding, we had a honeymoon, like we needed the money, like it's just, you know, life, and I've accepted that way more than I ever thought I would be able to. I've become way more patient than I've ever been, and I'm just like, yeah, trying to go with the flow. And also, my biggest tip is try to enjoy it all. Like, it is stressful. People categorically say it's one of the most stressful things you can do in your life is move house. But just any little moments you can enjoy, take that and soak it in, because there are moments to be had that are enjoyable. You know, you can have fun packing the house with your partner. Like, put your favourite music on, put a show on, do it together, makes it easier, makes it more fun. On moving day, try to prepare things that will make your life easier. We tried to do that. We did do that with the cats, and I'm really glad we did. And just, yeah, try and enjoy it and try and see it, like I said, as like a new adventure, and you can go out and explore your new area. Even if you're not in a new area, I think just it gives you a new perspective moving house, doesn't it? And everything feels fresh and new, and that can be really exciting. So just try and enjoy it, because it can be so stressful. But there are moments of joy you can cling on to in there, and I think that's what helps you get through the stress. That's it. It's been a whole year since we moved into this house. I love it here. I'm so glad we did it. I think it was the right thing at the right time, and we both kind of always say we don't know that this is out, because people always ask, is this your forever home? You're going to live here forever? I don't think you need to like think like that. I don't feel the need to think like that. Something could happen tomorrow and we might want to move out, you know. I just think that's life, and I'm not going to put the pressure on myself that like I have to live here forever, because that feels overwhelming. So I just think, yeah, you know, we'll be here as long as we want to be, and as long as it's right for us. And at the moment we're loving it. The first year has been lovely and fun and healing for me personally. Yeah, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.